Good afternoon, everybody. It's April 3rd, 2025. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, and I'm going to continue reading my West Virginia horror story, Part 4, by targeted female Deborah Florian. Okay, there is a Part 1, 2, and 3 already listed on the channel. You can go view, and she is a property owner. There are a lot of targeted people out there. Some rent, and some own property and land. And Deborah is one of those individuals who has consistently purchased a home and or land property. And she has experienced real estate, property, mobbing, and harassment and stalking as a result. By mid to late September 2010, I had buyers for 17 Rocky Trail, Hedgesville, West Virginia, and I was desperately searching for a vacant, cheap house to escape to. Nowhere near Hedgesville. I was on Craigslist constantly, the source for fast cash deals. I wanted out of 17 Rocky Trail as fast as humanly possible. Under the gun, even though Jean, quote unquote, the craziest arsonist shooter neighbor across from me had quieted down, I was continuously ready for a resumed onslaught. My nerves were not frayed, they were shredded. I found a quote-unquote cabin, a mishmash of old trailer with funky add-ons and an outhouse, purple and yellow, in Fayetteville, Pennsylvania, 2040 Pine Grove Road. As the name implies, pines everywhere, nestled in a forest of pine trees. The beauty of the area was breathtaking, and it was cheap and vacant. And really, really cold in the winter, but I wasn't thinking about details like that. If I were in a better mental state, I would have seen the thin walls realistically, but all I could think of was escaping from Crazyland. The place, along with neighboring cabins, was on a rented lot, about an acre. And at this time, the location felt far enough away from Hedgesville, West Virginia, roughly an hour and 20 minutes away. It was cheap enough so that I could buy it and move in before the closing on Rocky Trail took place. But here's a very telling thing. I have no memory of what I paid for it. A cash deal, no real estate, just a DMV title, since it was an old trailer. That's not like me to not remember. But I had had my wits scared out of me on Rocky Trail. Fear is a powerful thing. And yes, and I just want to say, Deborah, you may have temporarily not remembered what you paid for, but it will come back in the future. It usually does. There were no fireworks, no extreme behavior. What there was intense disapproval. A lot of the neighboring cabins were vacation homes, so there weren't many people around, which was a blessing. However, when I met the next door neighbor, his dislike for me was tangible. I was stunned. Somehow, and I don't recall the circumstances, I learned that his son was a cop in Pennsylvania State, I think. The man who delivered my water, there was a gravity-fed water system with a big plastic cube in my front yard, made no attempt to conceal his disdain as I paid him for deliveries. I began leaving his money in a waterproof bag taped to the water container so I didn't have to see him. Here's where it became impossible to ignore that I had not escaped. At the Pennsylvania DMV, or is it the MVA? When I went to get my Pennsylvania driver's license, I sat down in front of a woman at her computer. It was in an office, not a large center, almost like an insurance agency. I slipped my West Virginia driver's license to her. She started entering my information. Her eyes bugged out. She had been relaxed and friendly when I sat down. No more. Stiddled and almost scared. But I was able to complete the process to get my license. I was having some work done at the cabin. Really, I should have just rented a backhoe. I had engaged the services of a handyman and his helpers before leaving Rocky Trail, as there were some things that had to be done to please my buyer's bank. So I had them doing work at the PA cabin. They installed a new electric box, which I came in time to realize wasn't up to speed. But they put in a large, beautiful deck onto the cabin and did that job well. But there was a lot of drama. In hindsight, I think if a single woman buys a house, she better be content with it and not have any opportunistic men do work on it. Yes, I absolutely agree. I have lost thousands and thousands of dollars on renovating the building at the top of the hill here so that I could have a renter or somebody stay with me, and it's still not done. The amount of money that I put into it, I could have taken it down and installed a brand new building. On this day, I made the mental, this isn't going to work, note. I was driving down to Chambersburg, where I did my shopping. Immediately upon turning right on Pine Grove Road onto the main highway, I was truly horrified to see police vehicles lining both sides of the road. Many, many. Too much to take in and stay in control of things. This was a planned event. Several officers were standing against their vehicles, looking directly at me. No one followed me, and there's that plausible deniability of, hey, maybe they're just looking for someone else. But I remember that my new neighbor's son was a cop. A number of things coalesced. I was getting tired of the disapproval everywhere I went, and strangely enough, the next-door neighbor had started lighting fires really close to my cabin for comfort. It felt like a challenge, and it felt like it was connected to Jean's penchant for fires. Also, Fayetteville was starting to get tough on cabins like mine. New requirements for indoor toilets and septic systems, all of that would cost money that I didn't want to spend there. I was getting a nagging feeling that I needed to return to West Virginia to somehow face whatever was limiting my life, because I was being treated like a pariah in Pennsylvania. So back onto Realtor.com I went, but this time I wasn't in a mad rush. Things were unpleasant but not terrifying. There was a house that kept calling to me, saying my name. I think the first time I saw the listing was for about $55,000. It was a foreclosure and it needed a lot of work. So I kept trying to forget about it, but every time I looked, and there were only two, I think, pictures, right there, it's a handyman special. It called to me even more. I will tell you, there is something almost magical about certain areas of West Virginia. Old, unincorporated hamlets. Secluded areas where Civil War skirmishes were fought. A very old house in Sir John's Run in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, very close to the Potomac River and the railroad tracks. We're unincorporated here also. I get what you're saying. So, let's see. Potomac River and the railroad tracks. The finance company in California that I owned 48 Slonaker Lane was getting tired of this monolithic liability that would soon need its 1-acre lot mowed. Plus, whatever else could happen to it. They dropped the price to $23,900, and on May 27, 2011, I bought it. Take me home, country roads, to be continued. Okay, so Deborah Florian is documenting her real estate mobbing, her buying and selling of real estate in mostly rural West Virginia, moving to Pennsylvania, living next door to a guy whose father or son was a cop, and getting mobbed by police officers, that look of disdain. And I have experienced it here. People that I don't know would drive by and just stare me down with a look of hatred on their faces. And it's like, you know what? This is the way I look at it. It's not about me. It's about them. It's about their distorted perception of reality. It's about something that they were told that they ridiculously believed. And it's unfortunate. People are so ignorant that they believe anything that they're told. It doesn't matter who tells it to them. And that's the way it is in these small towns. Like I've said before, small towns, small minds, small weenies. They're cowards. They can't approach you directly. They can't have a conversation. And I think it's really despicable what's happening in our country, targeting single women. And I have a little bit of a theory, is that, you know, we still live in a patriarchal society. Although younger generations are more likely to merge their relationships and be more of an equal to each other. But back in the day, like when I was growing up, you know, everybody, the husband was the ruler of the roost, so to speak. And today we have groups, secret societies, cults, white supremacists, religious organizations that are of the misguided belief that women who are divorced, or women who are independent, women that can support themselves without a guy, is an enemy. Got to get rid of it. And the worst perpetrators against women, single, divorced women, women, independent women, are other women, in my experience. And it's a projection, because most of those women warring against the independent, single, divorced women are so deeply envious and jealous. They wish that they could live on their own. They wish that they would be able to afford to live on their own. They wish that they weren't scared to death to live by themselves. That's why, I don't know if you remember that video that I posted where I was reading the text messages from Scarlet Marks, you know, the nurse down the block, the incessant text messages. I don't know, maybe it was 20, 23, whatever, how many number of times that she kept saying, if you're afraid. And it's like, girl, dumbass,